Good morning and thank you. Okay, thank you for joining me today. Obviously, our community's hearts are very heavy, but yet grateful as we commemorate and celebrate the life of Savannah's pastor, Reverend Matthew Southall Brown Sr., who transitioned on Sunday. What a magnificent life. What a life of service. What a life of integrity. What a life of leadership. What a life of friendship. He was so many things to so many people. For some, he was a World War II veteran who fought in the Battle of the Bulge. For others, he was a civil rights leader here in our community, fighting for civil rights. For many, he was the pastor of St. John Baptist Church for 35 years, and since then became the pastor of pastors and someone that we look to as an elder statesman, someone that we could rely on, a very calm, steady voice. He was also an author, and certainly for myself, he was someone that I looked to. He was the honorary chairman of my mayoral campaign, and I will just tell you the honor of having his very presence among us and certainly his name attached to us meant so much. And he was someone who would call and offer words of support, words of encouragement, sometimes words of caution, but a huge loss for our community. However, knowing and believing how Pastor Brown knew and believed, we know that this is not the end. So we'll be listening for the arrangements, and we will make sure that he is properly acknowledged by our city and by our council. We're also watching what's happening in Brunswick, Glenn County, Georgia. As I understand it, there'll be jury instructions and deliberations could begin as early as today. And obviously, we are cautious. The proximity to Savannah is negligible. Obviously, we have also one of our circuit judges here that's actually hearing that case, and Judge Wamsley. And so we've been paying close attention to it. And so we'll be meeting with faith leaders, and our police have already started to monitor the situation. Again, no action, just vigilance, just keeping an eye on what's happening. Yesterday, I was so happy to join Team Savannah by showing their collective generosity by, again, completing our annual food drive to benefit the Second Harvest Food Bank. In 2020, Team Savannah collected about 26,685 to be exact, canned goods, and they donated those to Second Harvest. And so through yesterday, through the donation of over 1,200 city employees, we exceeded that by contributing 26,864 canned goods to Second Harvest Food Bank. 26,864. It speaks to the heart and the soul of Team Savannah that we can be public servants in the job we're paid for, and then we can go above and beyond for the things we're not paid for. And so I am so grateful to Team Savannah, every employee who gave. We had some employees that gave upwards of 200 cans of food. We have a friendly internal competition, and so we look forward to continuing that next year. So my thanks to everyone that was involved in that. Today, the City Council will host our first public hearing on the proposed 2020 budget at 2 o'clock during our regular council meeting. If you remember, our $479 million proposed budget delivers high quality and improved services while making significant investments to improve the lives of residents. And something we have not talked about a whole lot was really the investment in our sanitation department. Sanitation is the heart and soul of any organization. We can fight fires, we can lock up bad guys, we can provide great water, but at the end of the day, the trash needs to be picked up. And so this is a major investment. The council has chosen to not only add positions, but also to expand services. We make a commitment to our residents that when we say we're going to pick your trash up on a day or pick your recycling up on a day, to us that's a contract. And so when we say we're going to do it, we should do it when we say, and as you know, we have not delivered as we have promised. And that's just a fact. And so we will hopefully get there through this budget. Very aggressive, $6.7 million and 29 new positions to improve sanitation operations, increasingly enhancing litter and recycling programs. Sanitation estimates that they'll serve 57,000 households in 2022, and weekly residential refuse and yard waste collection, and 25,000 for curbside recycling pickup. So it's exciting that we are now investing in the things that we say are important, and the council has said overwhelmingly we want trash picked up on time. We don't want litter on our streets, and this budget helps us to be able to get there. So if you would like to see the entire budget and look at the snapshot, you can certainly go to savannahga.gov/budget, savannahga.gov/budget. Next week, we'll host our second budget retreat on Tuesday from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. at the Savannah Civic Center. And the final hearing about the budget is on December the 9th at 2 o'clock p.m. And I am hoping that the City Council will adopt the budget at that time. We're required to have an adopted budget by December 31st. And so December 9th puts us in a real good sweet spot for the end of the year. So we're looking forward to that. And glad to see Alderman Curtis Pertee of the 6th District has joined us. In other council business, we will consider approving a $2 million SPLOST-funded purchase of 3 fire pumpers to replace our aging fire apparatus. Again, if we are a top-tier fire department, we have to have top-tier equipment. We'll also consider a design contract for the first phase of the Springfield Canal improvements. This initial contract includes widening the canal to 100-foot bottom width, stabilizing the banks for maintenance services, and adding an ADA pedestrian walkway as a part of the growing Tide to Town trail. And as it gets closer to completion and opening, we're also looking at additional purchases for the Inmark Arena, including food carts and kiosks, playground equipment, and radios for staff communication. Council will also briefly discuss our 2022 legislative agenda during our work session, which also begins today. If you're familiar, the redistricting maps are on the governor's desk, which we are reviewing, as well as people across the state. And it would seem reasonable that there will be some legal action to take place from somebody regarding these maps. I've also been made aware of residents' concerns about setting up payment plans for overdue utility bills. And so we're working with our revenue department to come up with solutions to help get residents help faster. Right now, the department says that there are 30,000 past due accounts. And so that's nearly half of all the customers we serve. And so our customer service staff is working to answer each and every call and return every message. So we're asking people to exercise some patience, and we'll exercise some courtesy on our end as well. Anyone interested in setting up a new payment arrangement should contact Utility Services at 912-651-6460. 912-651-6460. Finally, the city will celebrate its time for the holidays. The start of the holiday season with our Christmas tree and menorah lightings this weekend. The annual Christmas tree lighting will be on this Friday, November the 26th, at Broughton and Bull Streets. Live performances and entertainment will start at 5:30 p.m. with our tree lighting starting afterwards. And on Sunday, November the 28th, the city will also then join Shabbat of Savannah for the menorah lighting in Ellis Square to celebrate the beginning of Hanukkah. Events begin at 4:30 and the menorah lighting begins at 5 p.m. Again, this is what Savannah is about, these family-friendly holiday events, and there are plenty more scheduled throughout December. You can check out the full list on our homepage of Savannah's award-winning website, savannahga.gov, savannahga.gov. So, happy Thanksgiving, and we recognize we all have a lot to be thankful for, and that ends my prepared remarks, and I'll answer any questions you may have.
You mentioned at the beginning of your remarks about the trial that you're kind of monitoring that. It does look like, because I know the state is doing their rebuttal this morning, so
Correct.
it might be highly likely that the jury gets the case today. What kind of things are you concerned about? Specifically, obviously, I guess in some people's mind, maybe the wrong verdict, for that case.
Well, I just think for the city of Savannah, it's about situational awareness. We recognize that we have no control over what happens there in Brunswick, but understanding very clearly that what happens in Brunswick can affect us. So for us, it's just ensuring that we're communicating internally, that we have a watchful eye, that we are communicating with our resources within our community, such as our faith community and community leaders. Just being prepared either way. We were in the same type of posture during George Floyd. We're in the same posture regarding the case in Kenosha, and the same thing now. Just again, keeping a watchful eye.
Morning, Mayor. How are you
Morning.
today?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm doing good. So speaking of the holidays, I'm going to bring up the Broad Street construction turnaround. I believe they're still kind of working to clean everything up there. How's that process gone so far in your eyes?
So far, so good. Again, I think that we recognize very clearly that we have a dual role to play in this. The first role is we have to make sure the construction gets done. As unsightly as it is, as uncomfortable as it is, as inconvenient as it is, it's what our residents voted for. And on an engineering standpoint, for the infrastructure that we're finding more and more issues that can become very big issues as it needs to be done. But on the other end of it, we also recognize that the holidays are a big time for small businesses, and certainly our small businesses have been the cog in our wheel. The reason why Savannah has done so well, we're projecting 4% total growth increase and relates to businesses. And so we want to be and do our part to do that. So obviously there'll be some costs that we might have to swallow. But on the other end of it, I think it's about being good neighbors and making sure that our main street is open for business. So we're going to do all we can to accentuate that and amplify that. There are 85 some odd businesses there, the greatest concentration on city-owned property that we have. And so we think it's going to be a wonderful experience. And then in January, we get back to work.
And then with it being Thanksgiving week and obviously Black Friday the day after, any recommendations for locals or anything in particular you'd like people to look out for this week?
Shop local. Shop local. Shop local. I mean, I'm sure that the Amazons are fine And big boxes are fine, and we need them as well. But we also recognize the value of small local businesses and folks who are deserving of our business, certainly are willing to serve us in a much more personal way. And so I say, let your feet do the walking, explore our city. It's been a while since a lot of people have been out. And so I think you get to rediscover what the holidays times are here in Savannah. Last year I remember lighting the Christmas tree with just me and a camera. Wasn't much fun, but I think the magic has returned, and so I want people to experience that. And although we talk about shopping, it's really more about a spirit. It's more about recognizing what the holiday season, no matter what your religious orientation, is really all about.
And then discussing, you guys talking about the upcoming budget, obviously you talked about being excited about some of the changes coming to sanitation, or not changes, but improvements. Anything else really major that's really getting you excited coming in next year?
Oh man, I'm excited about a whole bunch of stuff. I think sanitation is huge because it's going to, if you look for prior years, we really defunded that, although it was a priority. And so you had employees who were busting their behinds, but in the end, they were always working across the grain because they just didn't have the resources. This gives them the resources. It gives them the people. It gives them the equipment. And I think, for us, it funds our priority. I'm excited about Alderman Pertee and $5 million Southside a community center, something that we've been looking at for years, an opportunity to get that done. I'm really excited about the $15 minimum wage for city employees, a significant increase that helps us again to lead when we talk about issues of poverty reduction. You don't have to pay poverty wages, and so we will lead in that, and then we'll challenge other people to lead as well. This was a monster budget, a monster budget. Mr. Melder has come here like Santa Claus, but let's be very clear. This is also a once-in-a-lifetime budget. We won't have this. We'll be back to reality, counting pennies again next year. But I think when you look at this budget, you see something in every district. You see the things we're talking about. You see recommendations of some of our task forces. You see $1 million for the United Way, who has done such a massive job of helping people. You see significant improvements in law enforcement in terms of technology, particularly expanding ShotSpotter to now every district. I just think you see a responsible growth as it relates to the budget. And then I think the other thing I'm really excited about is our first equity and innovation person. And I think that's important because as we talk about equity, we have to measure it, both internally and externally. So that actually pushes us to really be much more accountable to ourselves as it relates to that. So it's hard to find much, to not love in this budget. And again, I've been around long enough. I know about those days, but here, no tax increase. I think that's important as well. And we are, in 2022, people will see major movement on things in their communities. If that's streets and sidewalks, if that's recreation facilities, there's a major investment in recreation facilities. Again, I could not be happier. I've said before, I'm downright giddy about it.
And sorry for not knowing this, why is the budget this year so much more than in past years?
ARPA, man, the American Rescue Plan, the gift from our federal government. So 56 million total? $56 million total. We have 27 in the bank. We expect another 27 in May. And I'm happy about it because we were criticized, almost sometimes by folks that I work with, about why we didn't spend it then. And there was two reasons why we didn't want to spend it then. First thing is, we're still in hurricane season. And until December the 1st, we're still in hurricane season. So if something had happened, we would be in a position to be able to fund whatever we needed to get done. So hopefully that looks like it's past us. We have a couple of days, and from the coolness in the air, we will be okay. The other reason was that it's more responsible to use the ARPA in conjunction with your budget. So you're able to now, fund multiple priorities. I think that's which I really compliment the city manager and budget team about doing, because it's a force multiplier. I mean, if you do it in and of itself, it's one thing, but here we're doing it where you're combining, you're setting forth your priorities, and now you're putting it on adrenaline. You have your regular budget, but you're using the ARPA really to hammer home, particularly some of the capital things that we're trying to do, some of the social things that we're trying to do, some of the investments in our community. I just think it's a good deal.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good morning, Mr. Mayor.
Good morning.
So my first question, I wonder about the redistricting map. Does the city have any concerns about the map that it's looking at right now?
I have plenty of concerns. Now there are several processes. The state process, which is going on, the county process, and then the city process. We've chosen for the city to begin our process in January for a number of reasons. Most notably is that the MPC is working with the county, both the school board and the county commissions, that they have identical districts, to get that together. The state is looking at congressional districts. And my concern is, to be quite frankly, that we're going to need federal intervention. This was our first year in which we didn't have what's called pre-clearance. And I don't believe that these maps are drawn fairly at the state level. As a matter of fact, I've called before for there to be a nonpartisan group to actually draw these maps. And it's been said before that, people pick their politicians. Politicians should have to pick their people. And in this map, you have politicians picking their people. And I just have an issue with that. So I suspect that there are going to be multiple lawsuits about that. We might join in on one of those. But in terms of the city of Savannah, our maps would not take effect until 2023, the election that leads to 2024, but we have to start drawing districts, and some of these districts are going to change. We look at where we have population growth. We know that our county is moving more to the north and to the west with the growth of the Highlands area, more to the south with the Bradley Point area, and so we know that some of these districts are going to change significantly. My goal is to hopefully do it in a way that's fair, but do it in a way that recognizes historic neighborhoods, to make sure that neighbors have the same representation, that you don't have two people next door to each other having different representatives. So again, there is a science to it, and we'll hopefully engage that starting in January, and do it in a way that makes sense. We'll have the better part of the 2 years to get it right.
So I understand the city can express its concerns and try to enact change by pursuing a lawsuit?
Well, again, our residents have state legislative members, they have state representatives and state senators that do their bidding on the state level. So that's their recourse as it relates to that. Obviously, we're very concerned, as they are across the state, because it all affects us. It affects us in terms of congressional representation for the state of Georgia, what our delegation looks like. And again, my goal is that it just needs to be fair, whatever fair is. It shouldn't be gerrymandered. It needs to be in a way that makes some sense. We shouldn't have someone that represents, downtown Savannah also representing Hinesville. I mean, and you've seen maps in which it snakes in that way just to bring in certain voters and exclude other voters. So, we'll see what happens when the governor signs this, and then we'll go from there.
And then you talk about this sanitation budget expansion. Many of our residents live in apartment complexes. So with this sanitation budget, would that help them also with the recycling? Would it have collection at these pickup locations? Would that be at the apartment complexes as well?
Trash is trash, and recycling is recycling, and we pick it up. We just have not done as an efficient job as we could, because we haven't had the staff. We staff up, everyone sees on-time service as promised, as delivered, whether you live in an apartment complex or whether you have a private residence.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, appreciate all of you. Certainly, again, we have a lot to be thankful for. I'm thankful for all of you. Certainly, hopefully, you'll spend time over the next coming days with those that you love, those that love you, and that hopefully we'll have an uneventful news week so that you all can do that. So, God bless. Happy Thanksgiving.